Hey there, creatives. I'm really excited to bring this next episode to you. It is all on the topic of time management and mindset around time management, particularly from a more holistic perspective. And so you'll hear what I think was a really great conversation by the holistic time coach, Becca Rich, and I. And she works with business owners, and professionals to help them work less and live more and take back time that they thought they didn't have, but they really do. And she dropped some really, really great, reflective questions to get you thinking about how you could be structuring your days differently, your weeks differently, to be more aligned with your desire of how much you want to work and yet still achieve the results and the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. So, without further ado, I hope that you enjoy this episode of season two, episode 13 of the Creative Psychotherapist podcast.
The Creative Psychotherapist is the official podcast of the Creative Clinicians Corner, a practice building resource for creative psychotherapists. TCP Podcast is the cast for creative, expressive, and experiential focused psychotherapists curious to learn how to design, build, and scale a thriving private practice. Your host, Raina Lombardi, interviews successful therapists about the tools and strategies they have used to develop creative, focused practices. They also talk about the products, services, and side hustles they have developed using their knowledge and creativity to enhance their therapy practices, make a greater impact in their communities, and diversify their income streams. Welcome. Now here's your host, Raina Lombardi.
Thanks so much for listening to the Creative Psychotherapist podcast. I'm your host, Raina Lombardi, and I'm super excited to welcome my next guest. Her name is Becca Rich. She is a visionary cutting through the BS of the billion-dollar productivity industry, creating a ripple effect with holistic time management. She helps business owners and professionals heal from the time scarcity and shows them how to team up with time to work less and live more. Who doesn't want to do that? As a trauma sensitive certified holistic coach with a background in engineering and mindfulness, she knows traditional time management is outdated and harmful. If you've been searching for a different way forward, holistic time management is here to help you create a life of peace at work, at home, and within. Thank you so much for being willing to talk with us today, Becca.
Thank you, Reina. And if you can hear any sirens, I'm in Berlin, Germany right now, and there is a lot of sirens happening outside today for whatever reason, and I hope everyone's okay.
Well,
So,
fortunately, Zoom is doing a really great job at like buffering it out. I don't hear anything, but that's awesome. Do you live in Berlin?
so I'm actually a digital nomad. Fun fact, my husband and I quit our jobs in July of 2020, and we've been traveling since then. So it'll be 3 years and 2 months, 3 months.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I have a childhood best friend that she's a consultant and kind of does her own thing. And she too is a digital nomad and kind of travels all over, doesn't have a home anymore, and loves it.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful journey. We're headed back to the US next week, actually, for the first time in over a year. And we're going to be in the US for like 6 months. So we're like, what is happening?
That's
But I'm
exciting.
grateful to be where I'm at in the world. And right now is with you on this podcast. So thank you for having me today.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to talk to you because this is a topic I think that comes up a lot, especially for folks that are really creative. it's easy to get wrapped up in the excitement of the idea phase of things, right? We have so many great ideas and we kind of maybe want to execute on all of them, sometimes all of them at the same time, which maybe isn't the best approach. And then it can like turn into like a whirlwind of like, what do I do first? How do I fit in the time to work on this project while still staying committed to the clients that I already have and really being present and showing up for them and managing what I already have going on. And so I loved learning about your philosophy of having a more holistically minded approach to time management and not diving into, you have to get up at blah, blah, and you have to have like a 25-hour day. And it's crazy making. So I'd love to have you share like what brought you into the world of helping people with time management from this more mindful approach.
Yeah. I always, as a healer, and I think anyone listening to this, like you probably resonate, you got into healing because it's something that you healed within yourself, right? And so this is very much my own journey. And I think intergenerationally, I always bring it back to I grew up with a entrepreneur as a dad and a grandpa, who worked all the time and was always creating new things, always having new ideas, always having things that they wanted to bring to life and bring into the world. And it's such a beautiful skill. And the downside was that they had not enough time for their family to rest, to take care of themselves, and um, you know, enough of a way, if you will. And so I followed in their footsteps. I became an engineer and burned out almost immediately, was in the hospital. And that was sort of my rock bottom, come to Jesus moment or whatever, of like, I need to take better care of myself. And that's when I
Yeah.
fell in love with the yoga practice. And I also became a Reiki healer and just got into anything that I could get my hands on to just get to know who I was and, breathe and slow down and be able to just be in the present moment. And that journey led me to, using my skills as a very strategic engineer brain, um, big thinker, and bringing everything down to, I'm also Virgo, so I love detail, I love organizing, I love all of that, with everything that I had learned in the spiritual sense and the healing and the present moment sense. And it's just been a beautiful way to just find balance between the extreme of structure and like rigidity and this like go 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 energy of our culture, and then slow it down and find a way to make it work for myself. And so became a holistic coach, time management consultant, like all of these different things to piece together what I'm now helping other people with. And also I certify other coaches and service providers in holistic time management as well to help their
Ooh,
clients.
that's fabulous. I love that. Um, I can definitely relate to your story, like family of entrepreneurial people and myself, like always having ideas and wanting to execute and create something, right? That's the beauty of being creative is you're giving birth to a new idea, but also that part of like, okay, I have to turn it off and I have to like slow it down. My husband is quite the opposite. Like he's like, I can do nothing and I'm fine. Like I'll just sit here and do nothing. And I'm like, how can you just sit there? Like, don't you want to read a book? Like, don't you want to do, something? What I
My
even like
husband is too.
meditation is hard. I need it to be an active meditation
Yeah.
in some way. So how does one approach um holistic time management? Like what does that even look like?
Yeah. So traditionally speaking, time management is how can I best, best is relative, of course. How can I best or most optimize like my time, my day, my week to get the most work done, and with the typical promise of then I'll be able to relax, then I'll be able to enjoy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that one day rarely comes if
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't make it come, right? You have to actually figure out how to make it come. And it's not going to happen if we're constantly chasing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And holistic time management is how can I best spend my time for my body, my mind, and my spirit today?
Ooh. Can you
And
repeat that? Because that's really, really powerful, that
yeah,
question.
yeah. How can I best spend my time today for my body, my mind, and my soul or spirit?
I love that. The
Yeah,
how can I, right? How can I
yeah,
do that?
yeah. And I think, answering that question is the practice, is the coaching. That's like the central question. And there's an underlying belief there that when I spend my time serving and honoring my body, my mind, and my soul, that I will have my needs met and I will be able to follow my desire, my joy, my creativity, because that is my body, my mind, and my soul. And I will get the things done that I need to get done. There's a trust
Mhm.
there, right? Whereas
Mhm.
traditional time management is like, I need to get all the things done, and like I need to control my day and like, schedule every little moment out and like make sure that I cram all the things in. And there's a lack of trust, and there's
Mhm.
a lack of intuition, and there's a lack of closeness and intimacy with our needs and who we are as a human being, a whole human being.
Yeah, I resonate so deeply with that. Because these are things that I've been working on in my kind of entrepreneurial journey, and I adopted like a mantra where when I start to notice myself to fall back into that pattern, that I say to myself, everything that needs to get done will get done in the time that is necessary. And that just kind of alleviates some of that pressure that other part of the anxiety part is like speaking of like, oh, you're not going to have enough time and you have to, carve
Yep.
out this time. You're going to have to work on the weekend, right? Everything that needs to get done will get done in the time that, it takes and is needed.
Yep.
And that helps. Like, I have had a plan to send out some marketing emails for an upcoming training. The training is a month from now, and I haven't done that since probably January. And so that's been like on the back of my mind. But I'm like, well, I like really to be okay. Like, I only need 7 more people to sign up because people have been signing up even though I haven't been pushing the marketing emails. So I'm like, when my brain was like, hey, you haven't done that. You're not, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, no, chill out. Chill out. It's going to be okay. Like, there's already, 13 people signed up. Like, one email will bring in 7 more people. You have plenty of time. Like, don't stress out.
Yeah. You touched on a really important point, which is, when you think about our minds, our minds are often what drives this worry, this, urgency, this pressure, this oftentimes, like, people, my clients often think that they're wasting their time or that they should get things done quicker and faster. And there's like this critical voice that we're all struggling with when it comes to our time. And that is something huge. One of the biggest things that I work on with my clients is how can we create a compassionate and curious environment within, and know that, things do take time and there is a gentle way. And we're so used to, motivating ourselves with fear and worry and anxiety. And like, if you don't get this thing done, like all these horrible things are going to happen to you. And like, we go start catastrophizing, right? And so being able to really take all of this beautiful work that we do in therapy and coaching and, self-awareness work and healing, and all we have to do is just apply it to our time. And that is often a missing one of the most simple tweaks that a lot of my clients make that make all of the difference for their business, for their relationships, for their health, for their just overall well-being. It really changes when we work on our mind and our thoughts when it comes to our time.
Mm, I can see how important that really is. Because if we start really listening to that voice that's putting all that sense of urgency and pressure, like I can already feel it in my body. I can feel my like
Yeah.
chest start to like clench up a little bit, like a tickle in the back of my throat. There's
Yeah,
like an
I feel it.
immediate somatic response,
Yeah. Yep.
and prolonged over time, that just leads to inflammation and combustion, and no bueno, not
Yeah.
good stuff is going to happen there. So,
Yeah. And it's so easy. Like, one of the things that I tell basically everybody that comes to work with me, you know, time management is something that we should have already figured out, that it should have been easy. Like, I have the skills. Like, why have I not been able to, do this, figure out this time thing yet? Like,
mhm,
it in society, it's, I don't know why, but time management productivity is like this. You read a book and then you magically like heal all of your time management issues, and you're a magical productive unicorn, and you never have any issues ever again. And that's just not the case. Like,
mhm,
our time is our life. Our time is us. Like, it's the medium for how we go about living. And
mm,
it is so complex and it's beautiful. Like, time is spiritual, it's intergenerational, it's cultural, it's our perception, it's our relationship to ourselves and everyone else and everything else around us. And like, that's not something that you can just magically get from reading a productivity book by some dude saying like, just work harder and like, you know force all the things you have to do into a rigid schedule. Like, we have to ditch that. We have to let it go and approach time in the way that I believe it deserves to be approached, which is with collaboration, with team, with love, with compassion, with curiosity, and because it's a part of us.
mm. But I love how you described that. And I've never heard anybody talk about it in that way, that it really is part of us, and how we relate and move in the world. And when you say it like that, it gives it a different, like, I think it makes it a little bit easier perhaps to approach it with a little more compassion. Like as I'm
Yeah.
like sitting with it and processing it, um, which I think is helpful and needed, because then we can say like, it's okay. It is okay for you to take the weekend off, right? I will say, like, if there's anything that I struggle with in terms of like hardcore, like addictive kind of behavior, it definitely falls in the realm of workaholism.
Oh yeah.
Um, like,
Same.
right?
Same. We're entrepreneurs.
Going to college, right? Like, you're going to college, you're working. Most of the time I worked multiple jobs while I was in college. It was like I never had really free time, except for when it was like a break, right? And then be like, okay, like I worked all that time for a real hard, really long time. Now I can have these 2 weeks. And I think what most of us, I can't certainly can't speak for everyone, but for most of us that go into this world of entrepreneurship, what we're really trying to accomplish is to take back some of that freedom, right? Like, I want the freedom to decide when I work, how much I work, how much time off I have in a given year. Um, but then we often will recreate what we already knew, and we put ourselves back on that treadmill, and we're just spinning from like day off to day off.
Yeah.
How do we help ourselves not do that, not repeat that, so that we can really create a business that works for us and that we're not beholden to the business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. I have a program called 30 Hours or Less. And so this is a program helping entrepreneurs and self-employed people work 30 hours or less a week. And the central theme for that program is finding enoughness. We
Mm,
have to figure out how much is enough, how much money is enough, how much clients is enough, how much tasks on our to-do list is enough. Basically, we have to find our enoughness in all of these different aspects. Um, of course, it's a lot of internal stuff about how do I feel enough? How do I feel worthy of rest and space and time and freedom, which is an internal healing. And also, there is a way to apply enoughness to the to the business, to the strategy. When is it enough to stop investing in programs that grow and grow and grow and scale and scale and scale? Like, when do we get to the point where we feel enough that we can take space, where we can work 30 hours a week or less? And my hypothesis, and this is coming with a ton of privilege, but my hypothesis is based on these two statistics, which I think are really cool. The average business owner works around 50 hours a week from this Business Pulse survey. And simultaneously, the average business owner spends 22 hours doing things that they consider wasteful, scrolling, checking email constantly, like all of this stuff that we know that we could be doing something much more impactful or important, or something that really is meaningful and going to move the needle forward. And yet we get stuck in these cycles of doing things that for numerous reasons, doing things that make us feel good in the moment or make us not have to get ourselves out there and be visible. Like, there's so many reasons, and I don't necessarily need to go into that, but if we were able to figure out a way to reclaim those 22 hours, we're sitting at 30. Like, it's already there. We're already doing 30 hours of work a week, focused, good work, solid work. And if we could just get rid of that 22 hours and spend that time enjoying our lives, going outside, reading a book, hanging out with our loved ones, and doing so without feeling guilty, like, and still scrolling, still watching Netflix, still doing whatever you want, but not having that, like, I have to sit here and work and avoid my real creative work that I really want to be doing. Like, how do we change that around? So that's sort of the hypothesis. And I think that we're already at 30 hours a week. We're just spending over 20 hours a week doing work that we don't really want to, we don't need to be doing. We don't need to be sitting at our computers doing things that, checking our email or being on our phone.
yeah, that it's true, right? Like, it's so the phones make it so easy, and there's that immediate reward mechanism that's dialed in there, really well honed to keep us tethered to them. Sometimes people get mad at me because I don't like immediately return phone calls and stuff. If you call me on my cell phone, it might take me a few days before I realize there's a voicemail there because it's almost always on do not disturb unless I have scheduled a phone call. Um, Otherwise, like I, I I've just always have my phone on do not disturb because when I'm doing client facing work, I do not want any kind of bells, whistles, buzzers, anything going off to alert me that that needs my attention because I don't want my attention to be pulled away from the people who are paying for my attention. And then I just forget. I'm like, oh, okay, like the day is done, and I forget. And then it's not until a couple days later that I go, oh, I haven't checked my voice messages. And I also don't have any of the notifications on any kind of social media and stuff like that, too, for the
Yeah.
same reason. Because it would be, I already struggle with it. It would be way worse if I didn't use those tools.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and kudos to you. I think that's beautiful. And to add to this, like if for more solutions, more ideas, during the pandemic, my husband and I, we traded like phones essentially. Like we put the 45-minute time limit on all of our social media apps, and we traded the password. So he knew the password for my phone and I knew the password for his, so we couldn't like just say ignore the time limit. And that was like brilliant. I loved that idea. So if you have a roommate or partner or someone like that you could do that with, that's always like a fun idea that I always tell people. And yeah, like I do my very best to just leave the house without my phone, which is like so weird for people. Like I've gone to restaurants where you have to put in your phone number to get a reservation, and I'm like, I don't have a phone. And like they look at me and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, just leave the house as much as possible without your phone. Like that's my tip always.
I find like when I go on vacation, like the first day, I still feel a little bit connected because I'm negotiating all of the like, where am I going? Am I getting there? Getting checked in? But then once I'm like at my destination, I'm like, I don't, I don't care that I don't have Wi-Fi service. Like I'm not going to attach any of that. I'll just use it as a camera
Yeah.
and not I don't wanna be tethered to it. It, like, feels so much better to move throughout the day without that device. It
Yeah.
that feels like you can feel the time. You can feel the time that you gain back in those
Yep.
moments
Yeah.
when you don't have it with you.
Yeah. And this is a really great example. We got granular around a phone because a phone is something that often many people talk about being the thing that, they consider wasteful, that they don't want to be on, and yet they still find themselves on. But essentially, going back to like this question of holistic time management is how can I spend my time serving my mind, my body, and my soul? And like all three of those things are served when I leave my phone at home, or when I don't scroll and compare myself and get all anxious and sad that my life isn't more amazing than it already is. So yeah, like there's the amount of like, we're creative people, we're entrepreneurs, and the brilliance that comes forward from my clients when we talk through like, certain situations and certain things that, are preventing them from being able to bring their ideas into the world and spend their time on the things that really truly matter to them. Solving anything that is preventing them from doing that is really just answering that question of how can I best serve my mind, my body, and my soul today or this week or this month. And it's a really beautiful question. It
No,
always goes back to that.
no, it's super powerful. It's really, really powerful. I'm gonna write I have a whiteboard, at my like, behind my desk, and I always write things up there that I like want to really remember. Like I have a statement up there, resistance to work is my desire to play. And because that's like a reminder that I need, because it ties into what we're talking about, but I'm gonna put that question up there too when we're done.
I'm
I'm gonna put
honored.
that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
it's such a good question. And I think it really does tie back into the whole, like, the why we go, yeah, out into business for ourselves. Yes, I think there's a tie-in of like, well, I want to serve, the clients that I want to serve in the way that I want to serve them. That is important. But even more so, it's about us. It's about fulfilling something within us. Otherwise, why would you take on that risk? Why would you take on that responsibility? It's a tremendous responsibility, um, to have your
Yeah.
own business where you're serving other humans.
Yeah. It is. And it's a beautiful one. And um, if this question, there's so much that goes into it as well. Like there's so much, what I mentioned earlier, like cultural, and we talked about this, um, how easy it is to like fall into this urgency or the worry mind, the inner critic. And like there's so much that goes into answering that question truthfully and from a place of like honesty. The honesty part is the scary part, right? There's shadow work when it comes to time because we don't want to actually think about how we're spending our time a lot. Like
Mhm.
we can really underestimate how long things take, and we feel bad for saying no to things. Like there's so much that goes into answering this question and navigating it, with the knowledge that it's so much bigger than us. It's not just us. It's not just our fault. There's like identity, privilege, society, like all of these
Mhm.
things that go into how we're able to spend our time. And I really wanted to make sure that I said that. Like if you are experiencing any of that shame or like, you know, guilt or some weird icky feelings around not having figured this out yet, or not um, being able to easily answer that question of how can I spend my time serving my mind, my body, and soul. There's a lot that goes into it that can be addressed and healed and worked through.
Yeah, it all goes back to our environmental conditioning. I love the research that's coming out, more about how much our environment plays in out everything from our genes to behavior, everything. And where I feel like growing up in school, it was like, it's, 50-50 nature, nurture. And now it's almost seeming like, no, I think that there's more nurture than nature. And that's really powerful in helping people to understand, if what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, is habitual in nature, then there's probably a really strong likelihood that there's some environmental conditioning playing a role. And so since we know that, then we know we can change that. And
Yeah.
what are some of the mindset, like, pitfalls that you find clients like stumbling in and going like, crap, I'm here again. How did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest ones is time scarcity. Like, I never have enough time. It's this constant inner dialogue of, I never get enough done. I never have enough time. Time goes by so fast. I can't believe it's already April 21st. Like, whatever, like, it's cultural. This is where a lot of the cultural stuff comes in, right? Time flies. Like, um, I'm so busy. It's like a badge of honor. Like a lot of these sayings we just say to one another because we're just so used to it, and we don't realize that we're creating that inner dialogue of that reinforcement of like hustle or hurry or urgency. And that is activating, like you mentioned, for our nervous systems. And that really prevents us from being able to be present and with ourselves and with the people that we're with, or with the work that we're doing, the creative project, the ideas, being able to like channel ideas we have to be present, we have to be open, we have to, some of the best work is done in the shower, and that's because we're not doing anything, right? Some of the best work is when we're
Yes.
driving or doing dishes or whatever. Like there's a reason, and that's
Hmm.
like proof to do more, like of not trying to force yourself to sit down and like work.
Slog it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need that slow down time.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the most common ones, like that I definitely hear in session, is this subconscious dialogue or thought process around time that reinforces time scarcity, never enough time, never, blah, blah, blah. And then the other one is gonna take generations to heal, quite honestly. Like it's not something that we're gonna be able to heal in the society that we live in, like wholeheartedly. And but what I call is internalized capitalism or toxic productivity of, you know, this never enough, always chasing, can't rest, don't deserve to rest. And a lot of that comes out subconsciously.
Oh,
Like a
yeah.
lot of it's never usually like you were telling ourselves that we can't rest. We just continue to find ourselves waking up in the morning and opening our phones and checking our emails. Or what's another one that a lot of my clients or myself do? um this, I think, like one of the most common ones that I hear that kind of go hand in hand with this internalized capitalism is like, I can't seem to like stop putting so much on my to-do list, right? Like this need to just like write to-do lists that are like 10 million bullets long with like sub to-do lists and baby other sub to-do lists, and like it's just this, I can never get enough done. Like
Hmm.
my brain is telling me that once I get this all done, I will be able to enjoy myself and rest and relax. And again, that doesn't ever happen or rarely happens.
So how do you help people stay accountable? Like how do you help them to stay accountable to themselves when they figure out and they answer that question, how do they really intentionally want to spend their time? But that still allows them to, accomplish their business goals. How do you help them stay accountable to that? Whether it's like staying accountable to doing the things that they're procrastinating on in their business, and that's contributing to that 22 hours that you were talking about, um, or whether it's saying, okay, today I said I was going to do this for 2 hours. That project's not done. Oh, well, I'm closing the laptop and now I'm going to go take myself on a walk at the park or the beach or mountains, whatever. Um, how do you help them kind of start to pattern their habits?
Yeah. One of my favorite tools for this is Google Calendar. And we're all using it to some extent, but a lot of people are using it um, as a tool to like continue to like reinforce this never get enough done, um, cram, optimize
Mhm.
traditional time management stuff there. And helping people, one, create a schedule that honors their mind and body and spirit. Most of the time people still, even when they know it, they'll go and like try and create a schedule where they're waking up at 5 a.m. every day and, time blocking from the moment they wake up to the moment that they want to go to sleep. And then it's not reality. It's not even close to like they are really waking up at like 7 or 7:30 or whatever time. There's no connection to what's really happening. And so being able to really look at like with honesty and compassion of like what is happening in your day-to-day life already, and how can we look at how you operate best. Like I have an exercise that I help my clients look at their mind, their body, their spirit, and how, when, what's the truth? about their bodies, what's the truth about their minds, and how they can best serve all of these different pieces of them. And creating a schedule that honors all of that, honors their reality, honors the different parts of them. And that is like a huge way that most people like aren't approaching their schedule with intentionality. And when that shifts, and when they start to see like, oh, I'm actually basically already following this, and I don't need to force myself to wake up at 5 a.m. or like, push myself or do all of these things that don't feel good. They start to build momentum and motivation, and they feel really good about themselves. And that's the place where we can then create some
Mm.
movement or more. I call it effectiveness. I don't really vibe with the word efficient, but like, how can we be effective on our own terms? What does effectiveness on your terms look like? For me, it looks like having music on and having a tea next to me and being able to like, just cruise through writing things without overthinking and without going back and like editing a bajillion times and spending 2 hours on like, one email. That's what effectiveness looks like for me. And so how can I best set myself up for being effective with the times that I am working? And all of that comes together. And there's less of a conversation about like holding myself accountable versus how can I set myself up for success in a way that looks and feels really good to myself. And then it becomes less of a question of like hold myself accountable,
Mhm.
more so than like how can I just live true to my mind and my body and my creativity and my passion.
I like that. It's a total reframe. Yeah, clearly I need to do more work because I'm thinking like, how can I hold myself accountable, right? But I function a lot better when I am paying more attention to, okay, is this how I really want to spend my time? Is this what I really want to spend my time doing? And I mean, I guess we're all works in progress to a greater or lesser degree, right? Like I feel like I'm in a significantly better place at that at this junction than when I was where I was at like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and like you were
Mm.
saying, like having a team to help you, that's a huge mindset shift too, of like from the place of like, well, I have to do it all myself because I'm the only one that's going to do it the quote unquote right way. um to like being able to say like, you know what, that's the right way for me. That may not be the right way for the other person. As long as it gets completed, they can go about it in their way. Because that's what's going to help move the needle forward and take those responsibilities off my plate to give me that time to go for a walk on the beach, hang out, cook dinner, whatever,
Yeah.
that I might not normally have the time to do. But,
Yeah. It's interesting. So, again, like caveating this with like when I was an engineer, I was saving up basically the entire time to leave and travel. I just left and traveled during the pandemic. So I started my business with the money that I thought I would be traveling the world with. Um, However, since starting my business, I've only had one assistant during a season of my business. Never had anyone else, maybe a contractor or two for like a project. Um, but I have worked 3 days a week. I only see clients 3 days a week since starting my business. That was a promise to myself. I said, I know I can get trapped up in this workaholism and this having to prove myself and this urgency and worry and never enoughness. And that's been the lifelong practice. And, depending on circumstances and resources and things, like I believe that a lot more of us can be working a lot less and enjoying
Mhm.
our lives a lot more. And what we forget is, like, when we prioritize ourselves and our joy and living aliveness, like, it's only going to it's like the best profitable strategy, it's the best business strategy, it's the best being strategy in this world. It's like the number one most important thing that any one of us can do ever. And yet it is so hard for us to do it.
Mhm.
And because we think in the short term, right? We think it's not going to make us money. It's not going, we think working less is whatever bad things are going to happen to us. And there is, of course, a trust there that happens, but it's the best strategy.
The best strategy is to let go of some of those old patterns and give in to what your heart and soul is really calling for and telling you to do. Um, it's really what I'm hearing you say. Like if you follow your heart and your soul, that inner wisdom that's telling you this is what it is, you get to create that or you don't create that. But it's up to you. So if you just let go and allow it to happen, structure it, like you're saying, structure it for success, that all the good stuff starts to happen and it's not a worry anymore. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
Hey, I have PTSD, I have anxiety. My worry is always there, but I'm doing my best to do everything that I can to support myself and create a nourishing environment to be an entrepreneur and do this work. And I think, like you said, that's why we go into business, is ultimately to serve ourselves and to create the life that we want. And it's our job to make that happen.
Hmm. Gosh, that's really hitting me hard too. Like, it's our job to make that happen. As the CEO of our business, it's our job to have our business serve us in a way that creates the life that we want to live and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a way to make it happen today. You don't have to wait.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, Becca, for folks that are interested in learning more about how you work with people, how you help people with this, and um, the class that you had mentioned, the 30 hours or less, where can they find more information about you?
Yeah. Go in our best friend Google's. Go on Google and search the Holistic Time Coach. And that's my website, theholistictimecoach.com, or I'm on Instagram as the Holistic Time Coach as well.
Okay. And I understand you had a little giveaway for listeners if they're interested. Can you tell us a little about what that is?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's 8 self-reflection questions. So, as a coach, questions are my superpower. Powerful questions are amazing, and they help you find out your beautiful solutions without, like, needing someone else. Like, usually with time management, it's like, here's my system, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to, like, live your best life or whatever. And it doesn't work for most people. Like, we try it on for 5 seconds. So this freebie is 8 self-reflection questions that will help you find your own powerful, authentic solutions to help you spend your time serving your mind, your body, and your soul.
Mm, I love it. And you can find that at www.theholistictimecoach.com/work hyphen less. So I'll put that in the show notes too. So you can just click on it there. But thank you so much for talking with me today, talking about this topic. I think it's a really important topic, not just for um, my listeners, therapists who are creating their own practices or running their own practices, but for all of us, like even people that are working for corporations, right? Like you hear these stories about like people sleeping in their offices and stuff. That sounds terrible. Um, so
Yeah.
we definitely need your services. So thank you for coming on and talking about what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I love talking about all these things. So if you're listening and you're like, I want to talk to Becca, or I have questions, feel free to send me a DM. I'm always happy to hang out and chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope you and your husband have a safe journey back to the US and enjoy your time stateside.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Creative Psychotherapist Podcast. I really loved this conversation with Becca. I think what she's doing, the work that she's doing is so important. It's so easy for us to get caught up in that, like, I have to do more, I have to work more, I have to work harder kind of mentality. And when what we really want is to create a business that serves us. And I love how she talked about, cultivating motivation through our own compassion and curiosity, really pulling in those mindfulness based practices there. And then her idea of finding enoughness in the actions that you are taking in your business. I thought that was a really interesting reflective exercise to engage in to really kind of find out like what is enough for me? What do I need to find that place? Um, and then the other thing that I really loved was the question of, how can I be um, more intentional in how I spend my time so that it's, aligning with what my body, mind, and spirit needs. I felt like that question in and of itself is just so powerful. And I know I said in the episode I was going to write it up on my whiteboard, and I am, and I'm going to do some of my own reflective journaling around this, and probably make some artwork too. I think that it is such an important question because time is something that we can't go back. We can't live in it in the future. It's only in the present. And so we have to be really thoughtful about how to how to work in ways that um, allow us the maximum amount of time that we need to take care of ourselves and enjoy our lives. And by doing so, I always believe that we become a model for those around us that we're supporting and helping and encouraging, um, so that they can live their best, most fulfilled lives as well. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation and found some powerful takeaways to apply in your own practice. I know I did. So if you enjoyed the show, please do rate, subscribe, give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And if you feel inclined, share it with somebody else you think that episode could really be helpful to. I'm grateful for your support and your continued listenership. And I hope you have a really creative week. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Creative Psychotherapist. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For show notes, downloads, and additional resources, head over to the website at www.creativeclinicianscorner.com.